The Necron Nightscythe may be back in the game. We've had some updates recently from the Warhammer Community webpage, and there's been a change to the Nightscythe data card. So in this video I'm going to be explaining why I believe there's a little bit more life pumped back into the Nightscythe and it is not so much a dead pick anymore. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. Right, so what has actually happened to the Nightscythe? In the new... It's actually a codex update, isn't it? Where was it? Was it the code? Yeah, it was a codex update where the Nightscythe has been given the Deep Strike ability, which may be quite overlooked by a few people because you just think of it as a flyer, it's really fast, it doesn't necessarily need Deep Strike, but it does change quite a lot of things, which we're going to get into. But first, before we do that, let's quickly just go through some minor changes that actually apply because of the Deep Strike, and changes to the reserve rules, in fact, because when you've got a unit that's not got the Deep Strike ability, you were previously putting it into strategic reserves. Now, strategic reserves has got a 25% limit, whereas standard reserves has a half the models, or the half the units in your army, or half the points as a limit, so 50% effectively. Right, so let's just quickly go over these abilities just so that we're on the same page. The transport ability that it has, it's got the transport capacity of 1 Necron's infantry unit. This is worded quite differently to other transports in other factions. Normally it will say 20 infantry models or so on like that. This just says 1 Necron's infantry unit. And the abilities, I'm not going to go through the main faction ones, but translocation beams, this is pretty cool. So at the end of the fight phase, you can basically pick up a unit that's wholly within 6 inches. That's eligible to go in the Nightscythe, of course, so an infantry unit. And you can do it at the end of the fight phase. And that could be your opponent's fight phase, it could be your fight phase. So as long as they're not within engagement range and they're wholly within 6, they can get into the transport. So that could be for safety, preparing for your next movement phase, and so on. And of course, Quantum Invader, which means you can bring the Nightscythe in on the first, second, or third reinforcement step of your movement phases, basically. Basically, what I'm trying to say there, you can come in first turn. One more thing, disembarking. This is a few people have got this wrong in previous comments. When you are moving a Nightscythe, you are allowed to disembark after the Nightscythe has moved, but you are not allowed to charge with the unit that's disembarked. You are, however, allowed to shoot and do everything else as normal. With a melee unit, ideally you need to be moving and staying inside for the turn because you can't charge. And with a shooter unit, you want to pop out after it's moved and then shoot, of course. So with this new Deep Strike ability that it's got, what has actually changed? What are the actual changes to make me want to go, let's make a video of the Nightscythe? The first unit that springs to mind is Necron Immortals. Necron Immortals have got the infantry keyword. They're pretty good in terms of damage dealing, and you get a unit of 10 of them with either the Gauss blasters or the Tesla carbines. Either option is pretty good. I know the Teslas have been nerfed slightly with the whole action thing now, but both of them are pretty decent options, especially combined with their abilities and so on. What you then also do is you would add a Plasmancer to the unit, so you got the 5+ critical hit rolls for those sustained hits with the Tesla or for the lethal hits with the Gauss, and then it becomes sort of detachment unique at this point. Like, it depends on your detachment. If you've gone with the Hypercrypt Legion, you could stick the Horizon Tyrant enhancement on the Plasmancer. For 25 points, basically you get to reroll hit rolls of a 1. But if you've set your unit up on the battlefield this turn, which you actually have, if you've popped out of the Nightscythe after it's done its move, you have just set the unit up. So therefore they'll be eligible to be able to reroll all the hit rolls and not just ones. Something that not many people kind of use really. So they're popping out, rerolling all the hit rolls. And as we know, they reroll once to wound, maybe even all the wound rolls if the enemy unit's on an objective. So they could almost be rerolling everything at this point, and you've got them into the desired location. But what's great about this synergy is after they've done all their shooting, they've killed a load of models, the fight phase comes around in your turn, they're going to be wholly within 6 inches because they just disembarked within 3. So you just collect them, you just pick them back up again, back into the Nightscythe with the translocation beam. yeah, that's going to keep them from being shot at. It's going to keep them from being charged at. I mean, okay, the flyer can be shot. That's a given, of course. The flyer can be shot. But it can't be charged unless the enemy unit's got the fly keyword. So not many... I mean, some things have fly, don't get me wrong. But there's not as many units as you think actually have fly. Quite a lot of Necron units have fly. But when you look at other factions, there's not much fly around. So the Nightscythe is semi-safe because it's not going to get charged by many things, but it can still get shot, and if it does and you're still in the Hypocrite Legion, you've got that quantum deflection stratagem which we normally use on the monolith. So one vehicle can take a 4+ invulnerable save, so that's going to help the resiliency even further. So it's already toughness 9 with 12 wounds, but now it's going to have a 4+ invulnerable save, and it's protecting those immortals, which is kind of key. That's the key part here. Those immortals have probably already made their points back just by absolutely deleting a unit that they've just shot at, and they've pretty much escaped without anyone even noticing them. Now, if you're playing the Awakened Dynasty, you're going to be hitting on 2s rather than 3s because you're going to have a leader in the unit, and maybe you're re-rolling everything with the Conquering Tyrant stratagem for 1 CP, unless you've got an Overlord in the unit, and it will just be 0 CP. Because it's a new thing. It is battle tactic, but it doesn't have to be nowadays. Likewise with the Obeisance Phalanx, if you are using that detachment, you could re-roll all the hit rolls for the unit with the Eternal Conqueror enhancement for 25 points. And that's if enemy units are on objectives. There isn't just re-rolls of 1s there though. But still, that could be something useful. There's also ways to get criticals on a 5+ without having a Plasmancer in that detachment. There's a stratagem there, which is the Enslaved Artifice stratagem. And again, if you've got the Overlord there, that'll be completely free because of mine will be done. So that's another little bit of synergy. Now, that's Immortals. What if we change this up to Necron Warriors? You can pretty much do everything we've just done, but this time with the Warriors. The footprint, however, will be much larger with 20 models plus any leaders that you put in the unit. So you may struggle to find space. You've got to disembark wholly within 3. But yeah, they can pretty much do everything that the Immortals have just done. Obviously there's no Tesla option, it's purely the Gorse options. And again, you stick the Plasmancer in there and so on. Now if you wanted to go down the melee route, not as powerful because you can't charge after the Nightscythe has moved. And Deep Strike will count as a movement, so you can't just pop out and charge. So you're going to have to wait around a turn in the Nightscythe. But it comes in turn 1, so you would have been doing that as a minimum anyway. But you could get units such as Scorpion Destroyers. They've got the infantry keyword. You can get them in a better position behind a ruin perhaps, ready for a turn 2 charge, which is more ideal than just foot slogging because foot slogging is going to take you a few turns at least. Or even if you're using the Veil of Darkness relic, because the Veil of Darkness relic from the Awakened Dynasty, that's going to require a 9-inch charge because you can't get within 9 inches. Whereas if they're disembarking from the Nightscythe, they've still got their movement to do after the disembark, so the charge will be pretty straightforward because they've got an 8-inch movement after disembarking. So that's 8. You've got 3 for the disembark, 8 for the actual movement, and then the charge. It should be a relatively simple charge there. Another trick is actually using a unit that you wouldn't normally think of using, which is the Canoptic Wraiths. Now you're thinking, whoa, just hear me out on this one, right? The Wraiths are beasts. They are beasts, but when you've got a Technomancer in the unit, that's an infantry model. They all share keywords. And very similar to using a monolith, you can do this with a monolith, they can go in a Nightscythe if you chose to. The reason being is because the Nightscythe transport capacity was 1 infantry unit rather than 10 or 20 infantry models. There's a difference there, which we said in the intro. Now, you're probably not going to be putting Canoptic Wraiths starting in a Nightscythe, but let me tell you a little bit of a situational thing that you could do. Let's say you've brought some Immortals in, they've popped out and they've shot, and rather than popping back in the fight phase, you've just left them out onto an objective or something. Now maybe you've got some Canoptic Wraiths that are not too far away. Your opponent's turn comes around, they start moving towards your Wraiths, maybe it's a real beastie unit of Orc Boys or something. They're starting to make their moves on your Canoptic Wraiths, and you've got that stratagem which is the reactive subroutines for the Canoptic Core. So when your opponent ends a movement that is within 9 inches, you get to do a move of up to 6 inches, a normal move up to 6. Very important, a normal move up to 6 inches. So what you could do is get your entire unit wholly within 3 inches of the Nightscythe when you do your subroutine's reaction move, and you can literally embark. You can embark, and that will be in your opponent's turn, because the embark rules simply say you need to make a normal move and end wholly within 3 inches of the transport. So you pop them into your transport. Again, like we said earlier on, the transport can be shot, the Nightscythe can be shot. Yep, that's standard, still toughness 9, still got the 12 wounds. But those Orc boys that were about to run havoc on your Wraiths, they can't charge a flying aircraft because they don't have the fly keyword. So all of a sudden you've protected your guys. And then your turn comes around, you get them back out, you do your movement, you do your charge move, you're fighting first because you're the one that made the charge move, not the Orc boys. So it makes a whole difference, and again, that was very situational, but there's things you can do with a Nightscythe, and it's not just about the unit that you've actually taken in, it could be other units around as well. One last option I want to mention is the Lich Guard. Now the Lich Guards, they've been slightly forgotten about because of the Canoptic Wraiths, but the Canoptic Wraiths have gone a little bit more expensive lately. 250 points for a unit of 6, plus the 85 point Technomancer, plus any enhancements if you wanted to. It gets quite pricey. Lich Guard are still cheap and cheerful compared to the Canoptic Wraiths. You take the Swords and Shield option, you're not really taking them for the melee output, you're there for the sit and hold what we've got kind of approach when you've got Lich Guard. But you can pop your guys out of the Nightscythe, that's just deep struck in, sit on an objective, 10 Lich Guard, that's 170 points, bear that in mind, 170 points for 10. A full unit of Wraiths with the Technomancer is 335. You could get 2 full units of Lich Guard for 340, so that's only 5 points more, and you've got 2 full units of 10 Lich Guard. Obviously only 1 unit can fit in the flyer, that's, you know, by the by, but we're just talking about in terms of points comparison there, you can get 2 full units of Lich Guard for the same price. So it depends what you want to do. If you want to bunker down on an objective, you can deep strike 1 unit of Lich Guard in, dump them out, sit and hold with the shields, not a problem. They've got the invuln saves. Unfortunately, they can't have the Technomancer with the Feel No Pain saves, but it's an option there. You can take Overlords with Lich Guard, so you get a Resurrection Orb in there if you want, you get free stratagem usage, or minus 1 CP to the stratagem usage is what I should say, just in case they are 2 CP. That'll put it down to 1 CP, that's all because of mine will be done. Again, looking at the Obeisance Phalanx stratagems, you've got like Warrior Noble, 15 points enhancement. It's a minus 1 to hit in melee for the unit, so if you've got an Overlord with some Lich Guard, minus 1 to hit them, they're just holding firm on an objective, not bad. So with the main change to the Nightscythe being the Deep Strike ability, core ability, I think the Nightscythes are not a D tier unit anymore. They're out of that bracket, I believe. I'm not entirely sure where they go or how high they go up in terms of the tiers. They're still on the wrong side of the points if you ask me personally, because 145 still feels a little bit too much. Let me see it at 100, 110 points, then we're talking kind of thing. But 145, you don't get enough. And the gun, the twin Tesla Destructors, they don't do enough. Personally, they don't do enough against standard Space Marines because of the AP that lacks. It doesn't do anything really. But that Deep Strike does change the way you can bring units into the game, especially if you're not playing the Hypercrypt Legion, or even if you are playing the Hypercrypt Legion. There are things that it's going to do to your game. So look at it, check it out, see if there's anything you can do with your Nightscythe, dust it off of your shelves, because I'm sure it's been on your shelf for a few years now, and it's just gathering dust. So dust it off, give it a run out, see how it goes, and let me know down below.